Good evening and welcome to Open Your Mind Internet Radio. You have myself, Alan James.
And you have myself, Stephen George. A very good evening.
It's Sunday the 12th of May 2013 and we might sound a little bit different. We're actually in Studio 2 at the moment, our backup studio.
In the secret bunker.
The secret bunker, because we had internet issues, the broadband not working. Even up to yesterday, the United We Strike Marathon was on. And we were going to do a bit of work on the marathon, but unfortunately we couldn't do any production because the actual internet was acting up. Fair play to Steve. His internet was okay, so he jumped on and he did the 30-minute spot for OYM on United We Strike. So well done, Steve.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I did. I spoke for a full 30 minutes. It was a bit of a shock to me as well. Didn't know I had that much conversation in me.
Well done, well done. Okay, so basically we're in Bunker 2, but we'll carry on. Hopefully things will go smooth and the internet will behave itself. There you go. Laurie says there sounds brilliant on OYM. That's brilliant.
Good.
Okay.
Can I just do you now for a second? Tell us the communication channels, will you?
Oh, communication channels. Okay, we'll tell you the communication channels. Right, Put your feet back in. Communication channels are, well, we don't have email because we're in the Bunker 2, but we have the chat facility. Now, Steve is on the actual OYM chat, and I'm actually on the TNS chat. So we have both bases covered, but we don't have the actual phone in, and we don't have email. So if you want to leave a message for our guest, you can either do it on TNS or you can do it on the OYM chat facility. So there you go, that's the chat. Now our guest on tonight is a lady called Rosa Koire, who's going to be talking about Agenda 21. She's loads of experience in this, based in the States, and she knows what's coming down the line. Sorry Steve, can you just turn down my headset there? It's just...
Turn down your headset. You don't like the sound of your own voice, do you know?
No, it's just a bit too loud. Yeah, that's great, brilliant.
There you go.
Sorry, just getting things ready here. And Rose is going to be talking about Agenda 21 and how it's actually over here and it's happening at the moment. I think some people probably think that it's just going to happen, or it's happening in the States, but it's actually over here. We're going to be going into detail about Agenda 21, but that's in a few minutes. But as usual, we're going to catch up on a few bits and pieces. So over to you, Steve, for number one.
Yes, number one on the unscripted script. Anyone who has been listening knows that we were kind of thrown the idea around of holding a little bit of a meeting or a seminar just to educate people. And we had a look around. We went into a local hotel in County Meath during the week, and it was last week actually, and had a look around the room, and we secured the room. A nice little room it is too, and it's in the Headford Arms Hotel in Kells, County Meath. We've set a date for Monday, the 17th of June. It's going to be 8 p.m. kickoff until 10 p.m. As I say, limited seating, so you're going to have to arrive early. It's completely free. There is no cover charge, no tickets, nothing. You just have to arrive at the door. There's no pay on display after 6 p.m. In the locality. We've checked that out, so you don't have to worry about parking. There's plenty of off-street parking. And there's also a couple of areas in the locality. There's a church ground, there's car park spaces outside the hotel, and after 6 p.m. It will be free. Apparently, as we said, also there'll be car parking in the hotel as well. We will have a little bucket at the room, so if anyone wants to maybe contribute to the payment that for hiring out the room, you're more than welcome to do so. If you're coming from Dublin, there will be a bus airing buses from Bus Iris. Now we do know at the moment that Dublin Bus and Bus Iris that they are actually on strike at the moment. So I don't know if that continues. Well, you may not be able to get down, but I mean it's what. It's about 4 weeks away? 6 weeks away?
It's about 4 weeks away. It should be sorted out by then,
The strike should be sorted out by then, so yeah, that's going to be a great evening. The guest speaker is Walter Graham, and we're going to be kind of discussing Wi-Fi and the dangers and the perils and the pitfalls of wireless communication. So that's going to be a very interesting evening. Again, the date for your calendar is Monday, the 17th of June.
Between 8 and 10. Walter's going to be covering not just Wi-Fi, but obviously anything really wireless got to do with mobile phone masts, deck phones, microwaves, anything that's potentially dangerous from a wireless point of view. So if you can get down, the actual advert is actually on, the flyer is on OYM, so you can download the flyer there and pass it around on your Facebook and social media. It'd be great to see a lot of people there if you want to just find out more about, the dangers of this technology. Walter's a great guy, and he's brilliant. He's a brilliant speaker, so it'd be good to see that. Now, one of the things I mentioned there last week, just one of the things in passing, I didn't say anything was going to happen, but there's a website called beforethenews.com, and they talked about the Navy SEALs talking about nukes over in the west coast of America because they want to instigate martial law. Now, I did say, it's just one thing that was mentioned, and chances are we knew kind of, I had a kind of gut feeling that nothing was going to happen anyway, as Steve did, but we just thought we'd put it out there anyway, just for the hell of it, to say that was on the website. So, but there was big explosions, and Israel did attack the Syria, and apparently, they said, it's just a small bomb, and apparently it wasn't. It was actually quite bigger than what they thought. So, but you can check it out on the internet. And see what you think yourself. Now, the other thing is, apparently Fine Gael are proposing the idea that the right of the people of Ireland to decide their own future should be removed. So
around about that time we should have a sound effect for the screeching of brakes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Fine Gael want to propose that. The way we had, I think it's Raymond Crotty who challenged the government in the 50s,
yep.
And because Raymond did that, we are in Ireland allowed to have a referendum for things that are constitutional.
Exactly. Yeah, and people who don't who may not be familiar, the likes of the Lisbon Treaty and use that as an example. Other countries didn't get to vote on that. There was no referendums. The government said yay or nay, and that was the end of the story. But thanks to Raymond Crotty, anything that pops up like that may affect our constitution or our constitutional rights, we have to have a referendum. And now these individuals want to try and take that away from us. Yeah,
well, it says on the article I have, it says they're looking at ways to insert an amendment that will nullify the need to have referendums on EU treaties. Now, why on earth would they want that if they were sworn to uphold the Constitution and work for the Irish people? You would have to question both if this is indeed their plan. It is a no-brainer that once EU treaties are allowed to usurp our own Constitution without approval and unopposed, then every other constitutional clause will then be easily usurped without the people's say, and every law that stems from them citing the EU treaties as a precedent. So, there you go. That's what you want to do. Do you want to take away our rights to actually have referendums to agree on things? Now, Lisbon Treaty, I think they've done it already, to be honest with you, Steve, because we said no, and they turned around and said, you got it wrong. We're going to ask you again.
That's right.
So I do think that is it a little bit too late, because they'll probably rig it anyway, even if they do have a vote for it. People are not going to vote away the Constitution, but it'll probably be rigged.
Yeah, but look, as it has been said many times before, that if you ask someone to give up their Constitution or rip it up and declare it null and void, nobody in the right mind would do that. But if you chip away at it slowly and over a long period of time, before the people realise, it'll be gone anyway.
Exactly. So how's your week, Steve?
My week, Alan, the usual mix of fun and frolics. Mostly, no, I won't even go into that. But yeah, I've had a few car troubles during the week, and nothing can be done about that. But the links that you sent me over, I actually started to watch some of the links. Some of them are on my list of things to do. There was that chap that you mentioned to me a couple of days ago. His name was Bill Myers.
Yeah.
Billy Myers. Not spelt the way I thought it was spelt. I downloaded an information video on Billy Myers that Alan sent me over. I haven't actually got to watch it yet because it's a little bit in the long side. So I'm going to get to that. But I was watching one there today just before we had to get my rear end in gear to get up and running and do all the troubleshooting for the show, because as Alan said, we are in Bunker 2. But I was watching one on the Bilderberg group. It's a lot of video footage that has been put together, and it's just basically the story unfolds. It's a good kind of, I wouldn't recommend it to anyone who's not familiar But yeah, for anyone who knows, kind of has a hint of an idea of what the Bilderberg Group are or what they do, what they're about, it's kind of an eye opener. There's loads of video clips and kind of little mini interviews. I'm only halfway through it now at the moment, but it's interesting. What else did I do during the week? Yesterday, I jumped on the UWS marathon because my broadband was up and yours wasn't. That was kind of interesting. I had Detlef and Karen there as backup and support, holding me hand all the way through the half an hour because, you know...
You were fine. I hadn't heard it because obviously my internet was down.
No, you haven't heard it. But, it was good, you know. I just kind of spoke about what was going on over here. They wanted to know a bit of an update on what's happening in Ireland, so... I just basically kind of told them that we're subject to the austerity as every other European country is, and it's crippling us the same as it's crippling other countries, and you know, and we're no different. We shot the breeze about the chemtrails because we noticed more of those during the week. Actually had an interesting discussion with my father, as I've mentioned him several times in the show. He's starting to open up as well and explore the world around him, and the world you don't know, more so than anything else. He's starting to, you know, take an interest in what's going on. So we kind of talked about chemtrails again, and he had some opinions, and I had my opinions, and it ended up kind of after an hour and a half. He wanted to know, you know, more and who benefits in this and why. There were so many questions he wanted answered. So I said, look, instead of looking at this from the bottom and working your way up and trying to find out who's responsible, I said we'll just kind of fast forward and we'll look at the top and we'll see who's responsible, and then you can figure it out for yourself. So I mentioned the Bilderberg Group, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, you know, the likes of Bill Gates and the vaccination programs. Probably Agenda 21 is probably going to be in there too, and depopulation. So we had about half an hour discussion on depopulation, and by the end of that, my father was going through emotions that I went through several years ago.
Well, we all go through it.
As we all go through, and you were only hitting on it there a few minutes ago when we were having a nice cup of tea in studio too. But my father, he wanted to know more. He was angry and he was scared, kind of all rolled up into one. So it's definitely a dark road to get down with all this information, but. Yeah, we just want to make light of it. We're kind of a bit like the Irish versions of Vinnie Eastwood. You know, we try and do it with a smile in our heart or a smile in our face and a song in our heart. Now, I've fluffed a couple of minutes there. My week was boring. Sorry, how was your week?
Well, no, that's interesting. I mean, what you're saying is right. Yeah. When you wake up to what's really going on, you do get angry.
You do. Yeah.
You do. We've all gone through it, and it is kind of an emotional roller coaster. How you feel, you know, how dare these people do this, you know, and that's really, and this rabbit hole goes very deep, as we know, and some people shouldn't really go down too far the rabbit hole because, you know, you could easily get pretty angry with it, you know. But my week.
Yeah, how was your week?
Okay, well, I'd just like to say just a couple of announcements, really, apart from the internet being down, and I'll be having a talk with the internet provider tomorrow.
Isn't it amazing? I mean, we only said this yesterday, and sorry for cutting across you, but there's so much of our, what we look at and people that we communicate with, and if it wasn't for the internet, we'd be kind of quite difficult.
Yeah, very.
So when we find ourselves without the internet, it really does make all this, you know, difficult because, as I say, there's so many people that we communicate with, and Alan will communicate with on a daily basis.
Yeah,
I think we're going to have to invent new forms of communication.
Yeah,
because if Obama has his kill switch for the internet, if you know, and that happens, we're screwed.
We're going back to radio again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, basically, just a couple of things. Now, Sinn Féin spokesman on the environment, community, and local government, Brian Stanley TD, has today or the other day published the Health Fluoridation of Water Supplies Repeal Bill 2013. This is not a party political issue, but an issue of public health. And he will be seeking cross-party support for this bill when he debates it in the Dáil. So fair play to him. His name is Brian Stanley today, Sinn Féin, and he wants to put a bill in to repeal fluoridation of water. That's a great step. You know, obviously we're going to have Aisling on in a few weeks' time, the Girl Against Fluoride. We're going to be talking about that. And Hot Press magazine has been great. They've been supporting it, and there's other newspapers, local newspapers, have been talking about fluoridation and, you know, getting the water fluoridation and the fluoride out of the water, because 98% of Europe actually are non-fluoridated, and Ireland still is. So
I think we're going to win this.
Well, I think it's going to be a good one.
Win it because when you see, like this was kind of a hot topic before. It was a hot potato. It was discussed among truth seekers or people on the alternative media, whatever you want to call us, whatever label you want to label us with. It was people like us who were discussing it and trying to educate people about it. But it was never discussed on mainstream, in the paper, radio, TV. It was never there. But now that Aisling Fitzgibbon, the girl against fluoride, she has done her nationwide campaign and is still doing the nationwide campaign. She's bringing it to schools. She's really pushing the message. She's getting the information out there. And now it has started to be. It's discussed in mainstream. It's in the newspaper. It has been discussed on radio, and it has also been discussed on mainstream TV, our own state broadcaster, which I was quite surprised. I was happy to see it, but I was surprised that they actually did. And now you have politicians who are jumping on Aisling's bandwagon, if you like, and saying, "Oh yeah, I'll support that." So I think it's starting to tip in the right direction. So, hopefully it won't be too much longer before we get this poison out of the water.
Fingers crossed.
And hopefully, when it does happen, we can hold the government responsible.
Exactly. Well, you know what's going to happen, though? They're just going to bail out, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're just going to bail out. They're going to say that we didn't know anything about it. It's just complete willful ignorance, to a certain extent. Deniability, which is what they'll do. And with the Wi-Fi stuff, wireless technology is the same thing. Okay, so that's happening. The other thing is the sovereignindependent.com. The new issue is available to download or purchase online. So if you want to pop along to the sovereignindependent.com, download that. That's available to view. The other thing is we got an email in, or message in from Dr. Carol Rosa. She's organising a Contact in the Desert at Joshua Tree Retreat Centre on 9/11 August 2013. So the 11th of August 2013, yes.
I think that's in the desert.
Yeah.
Not the desert.
Sorry, did I say desert? Sorry,
yes,
desert.
You did. Think of your stomach again.
I'm thinking of food again. Sorry, it's in the desert. Sorry. A weekend of exploration into ancient aliens, human origins, UFO sightings, and the need to know. Watch the Meet Your Shower Through the Clear Desert Sky, featuring George Norrie, Stephen Greer, live stream, Graham Hancock, Jim Mars, and more. And for more information, visit contactinthedesert.net, not desert. So go to the website contactinthedesert.net, and Dr. Carol Rosen is going to be running that. So if you want to pop along, if anybody's living over near the States and you can go, pop along and you can do that. And the last thing, before we get Rosa in, I don't know what you heard about. The lady that was in the Fugees, Lauren Hall. Is that her name, Lauren Hall? Lauren Holly or something?
That was a music
Lauren
group.
Hill. Lauren Hill is her name, yeah? She was in the Fugees, the band.
The music band.
Yeah. But basically, she's been coming out in talking about the music business and the way it's rigged and it's controlled and everything else. And basically, they're saying that she has this condition called ODD. Now, all conspiracy theorists, or if you want to say conspiracy, people who deal with conspiracy fact, I won't say theorists, conspiracy people, obviously suffer from this as well. This is oppositional defiant disorder, right? That's what they've labelled that, ODD.
Oh my, it's mad. Everything has a name, doesn't it? There's a condition and a name for everything.
They'd probably have a drug to fix it as well.
Exactly.
Basically, conspiracy theorists are mentally ill. That's what they're saying. Grammy Award-winning singer Lauren Hill has been ordered by a judge to undergo counselling because of her conspiracy theories. What was her conspiracy theory? That the music industry oppresses people with actual talent in favour of pumping out mindless nonsense. You mean like, Pop Idol and Britain's Got Talent and all this X Factor and all that kind of stuff?
It kind of, actually, I think she's right, so I think I have ODD. Hi, my name is Stephen. I've got ODD.
I've got ODD. So
it just means you're odd.
So if you actually realise that, so you actually realise what's going on in the world, and you're a conspiracy theorist, if you want to call yourself that. I wouldn't say that. We actually deal with fact. We don't deal with theories. You've got ODD, oppositional defiant disorder.
Yeah. So when people look at you and say there's something odd about him, there is ODD.
You've got ODD. I want a T-shirt with ODD on it, right? So more than likely the drug companies are going to bring out a drug saying, we have a drug for ODD, Yeah. Right, okay, we're going to get a guest on now. This lady, Rosa Koire, deals, and especially, well, I won't say deals, you know, she's actually focused on Agenda 21 at the moment. And in America, the further down the line with Agenda 21 and the effects that Agenda 21 are causing. So we've asked Rosa to come on to kind of educate us here in Ireland and obviously in Europe about what Agenda 21 is all about. And, you know, it's basically happening at the moment. If you go to the Mead.ie website and type in Agenda 21, it'll actually come up on the website. So we're actually in Agenda 21 is beginning to happen over here, if not it's happening already. But because Rosa is further down the line, I just thought let's get a heads up and find out what's happening now, what we can relate to, which is what's happening now and what's coming down the line to us. So good evening, Rosa. How are you?
Okay.
Okay. Oh, Net's getting any audio there?
No.
Uh-oh.
Oh, there we go.
Sorry.
There we are.
See, this is what happens when we're in Studio 2. We're not used to the equipment. No, you're fine. It was just, we just needed to press the big red button.
Sorry.
Oh, there you go. Yes. You watch those red buttons now.
Yeah, I'll tell you. See, we're not used to Studio 2. We're so used to Studio 1 and the luxury in Studio 1. Rosa, thanks a lot for coming on. Good evening to you. And before we get into Agenda 21, can you just give us a heads up on who Rosa Koire is and what you've been involved in and what you've been doing?
Oh, yeah, sure. But let me just say first, that's all you've been talking about so far is Agenda 21. Every single thing you've talked about so far, that's Agenda 21. So we're going to get into that. And I've written a book. It's called Behind the Green Mask, UN Agenda 21, and it's available all over. And I'm the executive director of the Post-Sustainability Institute, and we are dedicated to exposing the truth about communitarianism and United Nations Agenda 21 worldwide. And my personal background is I'm an expert witness. I was an expert witness for many years working for the California Department of Transportation, district branch chief there, testifying on land use and land value. And when I was doing my work, I discovered about 10 years ago that literally nothing was possible for people who own property. They were not able to develop their property by right. And in examining the courses, behind that, whatever was creating that situation, I also, at the same time, was elected to a project oversight committee for a huge redevelopment project in my city. And when I researched that, I found that it was fraudulent. And all the work that I did, along with my partner and a group that we formed to expose that, was really intense experience. The city tried to get me removed from that committee, did a lot of things, published articles about me that were lies. And then ultimately we ended up having to sue the city to stop this project. It was a huge lawsuit. We had to raise about $500,000 to do it. And although we failed, we lost in Superior Court and at the appellate level. During that time, we froze the project, and then redevelopment was ended in California. So redevelopment, when I looked behind it, I found United Nations Agenda 21, Sustainable Development. It is a funding arm for Agenda 21.
Wow, okay. And who funded the actual court case?
Our case?
Yeah.
Mostly small donations. I went out and fundraised. I spent years of my life literally doing this. We've been, working very engaged in this since 2005. So I was out there, fundraising for years, and then when I got onto Agenda 21, of course, I started lecturing and wrote my book, and I've been out going around the world. I'll actually be in Denmark this September at the Open Mind Conference, which looks like a very interesting conference. So I think it's September 21st through the 23rd in Denmark.
Okay, I have heard that the conference is going to be on, or I've seen that mentioned. Was there any time that when you were before you kind of knew about Agenda 21, did anybody kind of come up to you and go, you know, there's something a bit more sinister going on, and you kind of thought, no, I think they're a bit mad, you know?
Yes, absolutely, because I happen to be a liberal Democrat, and for me, you know, of course, I bought the whole media thing that this is, you know, conspiracy theory, and you know, and since I was. Before I retired, I was testifying in court, so everything I talk about is a fact. I don't speculate. So to me, just hearing about it, I thought, well, this is just some ridiculous crap that's coming up from the right wing, you know?
Yeah.
But I have certainly changed that point of view. I no longer identify myself as a progressive Democrat, and my party affiliation is I'd say I hang on to any party affiliation just to annoy people. But I think that it is very difficult to accept the reality of Agenda 21 sustainable development if your worldview is basically coming from the left, because it's designed to appeal to people who think that they're saving the planet. And what it is really is the action plan to inventory and control all land, all water, all minerals, all plants, all animals, all construction, all means of production, all energy, all education, and all information, and all human beings in the world. It's a global plan implemented locally. And yes, it is right there in Ireland right now, no question about it. And it's been developing over the last 20 years.
Wow. And can you give us some examples? You said that, you know, what we said earlier is obviously part of Agenda 21, but give us some examples of kind of how they start rolling this out and how we would notice it.
Yeah, well, for instance, what you were talking about, I could just go through your intro and take it apart and show you. But, basically that right to referendum on EU treaties right there, when you have a global plan like this, the design for globalization is about standardization of all systems. That's what the EU is. It's about harmonization of laws and total standardization. That's what the smart grid is. That's what, drugging everyone. You know, they want to identify you as having, some kind of oppositional defiant disorder. You know, you're ill if you want to raise an issue, if you want to discuss what's really going on. So, creating austerity measures that restrict your ability to live freely, to creating dependence. All of this takes away your independence and your free voice. And this is what Agenda 21 is about. It's about basically moving you into city centers, out of the rural and suburban areas, and moving you into an area where you can be more easily managed, surveilled, and controlled, and taking away your voice, your opposition. It's about neutralizing the opposition and propagandizing you so that you do not raise that opposition.
Well, this is the whole thing about this ODD, the oppositional defiant disorder, Lauren Hill has been accused of. And, a number of people, I was watching a video there the other day on YouTube. I was all about the music business and about people speaking out, Michael Jackson being one of them, Lauren Hill being another, and a few other people on the list, and about people that are involved in the music business, not in a nice way, like Jay-Z and now Beyonce, and about the messages in the videos and what's been going on there, and the control. Now, obviously, Agenda 21, you will, as you said, you're going to get people who think they're doing the right thing by being green, but actually what they're doing is they're playing into the hands of these people who are rolling out Agenda 21.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I called my book Behind the Green Mask, because it's the hijacking of the environmental movement. It's the veneer for erection of a totalitarian corporatocracy. So we're being manipulated and used, and certainly you're not seeing this in the mainstream media because they're controlled by 5 major corporations. So this is how you lose your ability to be free. And right now we're in that very sort of tight little moment where we can still expose collaborators and speak out. And before they decide that Valium is the, they're not, forget fluoridation, they'll be dropping Valium in the water, In fact, of course, all of the drugs that they give everyone do come out into the drinking water, and they recycle the water, and then you drink that. So, the thing is, a lot of this sounds crazy, and I do want to make sure that people know that Agenda 21, Sustainable Development, is the agenda for the 21st century. That's why it's called that. It was called that by the United Nations. It is not a treaty. It's an agreement, and it was agreed to by 179 nations in 1992 at the United Nations Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And our nations agreed to it. And it did not need to be ratified by our Congresses or our legislatures. It was an executive agreement that was basically reached by consensus. And all of the nations who were in attendance were assumed to agree to it, and in fact did agree to it. So this is not something, it's as you say, it is not a conspiracy theory. It's a conspiracy fact. And people need to recognize that when they are being shamed or embarrassed, or told that they're crazy or whatever, this is part of the conspiracy fact to neutralize opposition.
So we're talking about really willful ignorance by the people who are in the kind of green movement, or into kind of, the Green Party, into kind of saving the planet. What they don't realise is that it's all part of Agenda 21.
Yeah, well, some of them do realize it. It's not to say that everyone is, just like willfully ignorant or ignorant, in fact, because there's a huge amount of money in this. And you find that there are a lot of beneficiaries. And not only that, but, you have, of course, privatization of public things that were public ownership. Our water is being privatized. I think Siemens Corporation just bought, about 10 years ago, bought North America's largest water company. And GE, General Electric, owns huge amount of water. So this is one thing you'll see with artificial scarcity, which is imposed on you, and they're working on, of course, the United States. The design is to create artificial scarcity, austerity, in order to restrict us so that we will, basically be less independent and less able to resist.
Yeah, well, that's happening over here. We are having major austerity over here in Ireland, like a lot of countries around Europe. And one of the things they want to bring in, apart from smart meters, so they'll have a smart mesh grid. We had Jerry Flynn on last week talking about that and the dangers of smart meters. But also they want to bring in water meters, and the contract is going to a company, I believe, in Northern Ireland. So we will be paying now for the water from this corporate company. Now, the whole fact of water being a fundamental right for human life, but yet we're going to have to pay for it, and it's fluoridated.
Yeah, that's right. And, this is really interesting. I mean, we could get really deep into this and, dive deep into this. But the thing with water, of course, obviously it's essential. And I was on TV in Canada, and Canada has 0.5%. Their population is 0.5% of the total world population, but they have 20% of the world's fresh water. And what they're being told is that they have to conserve because they're going to have to reduce their water usage. Every locale is going to have to reduce water usage, and they're also told that they don't pay enough for water. So because I think they pay 40 cents a gallon compared to, like, say, Germany, which pays $1.91 or something like that. So the thing is that water is going to be used as a target. We will be told that there's not enough money to bring water out to the rural and suburban areas, and that that well that you have on your land is not your water. Water metering, which is a plan of the International Council on Local Environmental Initiatives. Water metering is, same smart metering technology for water, will literally restrict you because right now you can use as much water as you want to, but with a smart meter, so-called smart meter, they can literally shut off that meter remotely. And so you can actually lose your ability to have access to the thing that makes it possible for you to live. And this is happening. This is beginning to happen mainly in Southeast Asia now.
Well, it's happening over here in Ireland because they're installing water meters. They're looking for people to hire for this company to put water meters in. What happens to people who have a well?
Yeah, well, they want they want to meter the well, your personal well. That is coming, and you have to resist. The thing is, this is it now. If you're listening to this program, you are conscious. But a lot of people are not, and it's up to us to assist them in becoming conscious because there's no hero here. We're not going to get rescued by anyone. This is up to us to take responsibility, to show up, to speak out, and to refuse to collaborate.
Yeah, well, one of the people on the chat facility here said it was nice of them to ask the people rather than just go ahead and agree to it. Now, the other thing that was mentioned from one of our listeners on the chat facility was obviously part of this is Codex Alimentarius.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. You're going to see that. For instance, I was just talking to someone in New Zealand. Hang on here. The thing is that you'll see these food bills and food security acts that are designed to destroy the small producer. That's really the goal, because this is a corporatocracy that they're designing here. This is a totalitarian, fascist, worldwide global state that is being developed. And this is how it happens. This is what it looks like when it's in the process. So what they do is they destroy the ability of the private individual to be able to be independent. So, for instance, if you have a smart meter on your water, either on your water that you're getting municipality water or you're getting it from your well, if you're restricted in your use of your water or your agricultural water price goes way up, you're not able to be a producer. You cannot compete with the large producers. And this is, you get fines and fees and penalties and inventory and paperwork and compliance control and forms, and this is how they run small producers out of business.
And it's the same with the local shop on the corner. The big companies like your Walmarts are coming in, taking over, and people are, we know that these big companies, like we have Aldi and Lidl over here in Ireland, and we know the food is very cheap, and because of the austerity and people not being able to afford to get the branded products, they're going for the cheaper stuff. And we know that there's poisons, the aspartames and the MSGs in the food, and that's obviously part and parcel. Would you go as far as to include the eugenics program in this, global depopulation?
Well, I think, although I don't, I don't lay it out exactly like that, because I think you can extrapolate from what we're seeing and calculate, what the ultimate plan would be. Because, for instance, when you have, first of all, let's just take it up to a higher level where we're talking about nations being collapsed totally. So, Greece, Ireland, Italy, whatever. Okay? So the idea is, now we're taking it up from the individual loss of sovereignty and ability to be independent to the national. Because, you're dependent on the EU and as a, sort of a, I don't know what they call you, like secondary nation in the UN, in the EU, you're not Germany, right? So, you're basically your debt, you're swallowed by your debt. I think UK has like over $1 trillion in debt. And, so what happens then is that when the individual nations are dependent on Brussels to make decisions for them and you have no individual authority, then, everything changes, and then you have to accept, you may have to accept lower quality food because you're not able to afford the higher quality food. Your resistance is reduced because you're not able to, to fight. And one thing with debt like that, there's something called debt for nature. And this is the G20, G8, G20. Made it, they have to determine who is going to be the creditor and who's going to be the debtor and how they're going to collateralize that debt. And debt for nature is something, it was Club de Paris, which is, they name each one of their meetings for where they meet. So this is a Club of Paris meeting. And they determined that you would be trading trading on your debt with natural resources. So commoditizing your natural resources is then part of this. And we're seeing it in the United States. You're seeing it, there in Ireland, maybe with coal or with water or with other resources that you have. And, then they tell you have to change your consumption patterns, that you're using too much. And, obviously if the ownership of your natural resources has changed, they don't want you using your resources. So how the population is going to deal with that, obviously you're going to see famine, you're going to see tremendous impacts with illness, disease, when you're packed into high-density developments in the center of cities. And this is the goal.
Well, it sounds like to me we're going back to the war where you were issued with a ration card. And it seems to me like we're going to be going down that road.
Oh yeah, already are, and that we're already at that point because that's what cap and trade is. Now, cap and trade is considered to be, something where they cap your emissions. This is for industry. Emissions are capped, and then you can, if you're not using all of your potential cap, up to your cap, you can sell the difference to emitters that are using too much. But what they're doing now is they're having cap and trade for water. So let's say I, in my house, am not using my full allotment, my full ration of water. I can then, through a coordinating sort of central trading facility, I can trade my water credits to someone else. This is a pilot program here in California. So you're going to see rationing. I think we're beginning to see it now. And one thing you'll see is rationing in terms of housing. So, you'll be living in high-density apartments over shops in downtowns. And literally, if you have a home in a rural or a suburban area, you won't be able to continue to live there because your roads won't be paved. Infrastructure will not be supported in those areas, and because this is a regional plan. Regional is the interim between local government and global, and you have no impact on regional plans, and that's what you have. You've already got that in Ireland. So you don't elect your regional representatives. So what happens is you literally have no local representation. Those people may be sitting there in front of you, but they themselves have no power. And so this is another way that you have lost your ability to influence what happens to you.
Well, I can definitely say you've just hit the nail on the head, Rosa, because that's happening over here now. I mean, hands up to all our listeners who knows a road that's full of potholes that haven't been maintained. I mean, we pay our road taxes and our taxes in general, and that's supposed to be for the upkeep. But the roads are in a terrible state, and when they come along and try and fix the actual potholes, they only cover them. Mick and Paddy comes with a shovel and a bit of tarmac at them and sticks it in, and within a few weeks the pothole is back there again. And at the moment, everybody's complaining because it's a knock-on effect. People are hitting potholes in their car gets damaged, they have to pay for the repair, which means they're down on money. And that means they have less money to buy food, and it's just a whole knock-on effect which is happening over here now as we speak in Ireland.
Yeah, that's the design of the thing. And that's why I say it's not really what is UN Agenda 21 a sustainable development. It's what isn't, and you're going to have to look long and hard to find anything that is not Agenda 21 now. Your educational system. Your law enforcement with, surveillance, domestic surveillance, and I know back in, and how about, unification of banks, which, is happening there. Europe is unifying the banks with a central system that happened, at the end of last year. And I was looking at the web surveillance plan in the UK, which is basically, a done deal that, they're saying, hey, if you're not a criminal, you don't have anything to worry about. This is globalization, is the standardization of all systems. That is what Agenda 21 is.
Yeah.
Well, so whether it's law enforcement or health care or education or land use, transport, energy, whatever it is, it's all the same thing. This is Agenda 21. And it's been going on. It's not that it just started in 1992, but that was when it was codified internationally.
Ratified, probably. Here's the other thing, and we have a couple of questions coming in, but one thing I want to talk about, and you might be able to say whether this is Agenda 21, chances are it probably is, the privatization of everything.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. No question about it. See, this is exactly what it is. It's, public-private partnerships are Agenda 20. This is, one way of implementing Agenda 21. It is part of Agenda 21, and it's the implementation arm, one of them. So when you privatize, for instance, you're going to privatize, let's say you have toll roads, or they're going to privatize your water, or they're going to privatize your energy, or, something, the government's like, oh no, we can't handle it, we're out of money. If it weren't for private enterprise, we would just go under. And that's the story. The prisons are being privately owned. For crying out loud, when you think about a public-private partnership and then you know that prisons are privately owned, well, what do prisons need? They need prisoners. And how do they get more prisoners? More things are crime. So this is what goes in. They have to lock in an income stream when they agree to public-private partnerships. It's a reassignment of risk because see how it works? You take the risk, they get the profit. That's how it works. And this is one of the things that's come up recently. And you'll probably agree with me in this. Our police over here are called the Gardaí. Our police force is called the Gardaí. And they're going through major issues. They're being hit with austerity. And there was talk the other day on one of the newspapers. They were talking about the police force had a meeting with their representative body, which is called the GRA. And the GRA are talking about mass resignation because of what's happening, because of the way the government is treating the police force. And obviously there's police officers gone off to Australia and everything else. Now, wouldn't that be convenient? And I had to think about this. Wouldn't it be convenient if the police did that and they would then have a private security firm like G4S, like in the UK, coming in and taking over the police operations. So basically the government get loads of tax off people and they privatise the police so they don't have the responsibility of having to pay out. Yeah, that's exactly right. And you're seeing, that's exactly right. You see that and it's not just with the police force. I mean, of course you're going to see it with your police force where they're, but you're also seeing it with like code enforcement and food safety officers where they're actually militarizing them and then making them, contracting with private contractors. So this whole thing, what it is that the loyalty then, you get guys like that who are working for a private contractor, they are not public servants. Their loyalty is to their corporation. And, this is the goal, is literally to create, sort of a super force that is international, and that does not answer to the local government. And to which you have no, you cannot control them. So, when you see words like transform or reinventing or harmonizing, things like that in your government processes, that is what you're seeing. And privatization, of course, is vital to this plan.
It's amazing, isn't it, that this is their plan, to privatize everything so they get the money and obviously the private companies take the risk. The question we have here is...
No, you take the risk. No, you take the risk and they get the profit.
Right, we take the risk. We know the government is a corporate company anyway. And especially over in Ireland, our government over here is a provisional government under King George V, the Royal Oireachtas. It's actually not an Irish government. So we know that anyway. Trying to convince people of that is another thing. But the question here is, what agenda does fracking come under? How clever is that for the powers to be forward-thinking? Mm-hmm. So fracking, does that come under Agenda 21?
Yeah, I'm still analyzing that. I came from, I had a speaking tour through the Northeast in the United States, and, looked at that. It's very difficult. It looks like what's happening is that they're destroying the potential water supply, or there is a potential for destroying the water supply, injecting things into the water that will leach into the water that we're using for, drinking water. And that, in releasing natural gas, in that way, it's, it creates a stress on the earth as well. But I think that the energy issue is so interesting because when you look at solar and wind and the subsidies for that, and see the Agenda 21 plan translates locally into a demand for more alternative energy. And one of the things that I've seen is that the huge energy producers, so these are the big oil and gas producers, are heavily invested in alternative, so-called alternative energies, and these are tremendously subsidized by your tax dollars. One thing that we're dealing with all over the world is this tremendous debt. And we're made to feel ashamed, like we were such pigs in the 80s and 70s. And, this is what we get for being such awful pigs. Now we get to suffer. And aren't we bad because the kids that come after us are going to, be struggling, and aren't we awful? Well, the real story is that the money has been stolen and we have been manipulated. So whether it was through energy or through endless war, or whatever it was that however it was that they were stealing our money, indebting us, creating huge infrastructure projects that just basically bled off our money. We are having to pay for that. And so whether it's in, supposedly with, creating a problem with coal, where coal cannot be clean, where there's no way to manage our energy, and where people are unable to continue to make a living in the way that they were making a living. So it creates a huge amount of people on the dole, and that is part of this plan.
That's happening now. Definitely, right. Steve, over to you. You got a couple of questions there for Rosa.
Yeah, well, we have a comment on a question. Jim, one was just mentioned there when we were talking about the potholes in the road. Jim said it's a deliberate lack of maintenance on the roads that will lead to its privatization. I have to agree. But the question is from Howie. Howie is wondering, Rosa, is Agenda 21 and Common Purpose one and the same thing?
Oh, that's interesting to ask about Common Purpose. I think Common Purpose is coming into the U.S. or trying to come into the U.S. I think here's something that we haven't talked about, and this is the time, is what Agenda 21 does. And the way it works is it's a let's see, are you still with me?
Yeah,
go ahead, yeah.
Good. I just heard a funny sound on my computer. It's like something like a little bouncing thing. Okay, so here's how it works. Non-governmental organizations like Common Purpose and many other kinds of organizations that are not government and that are supposedly not corporation, but are backed with huge corporate and foundation money, then pressure your government and actually create change by they have elected officials sitting on their boards or being influenced directly by them, and they are designed to change public policy. That is their purpose. And so that is, one of the things. Okay, so let's look at Common Purpose. It's designed to use something, and all of this plan is designed on this political and social philosophy called Communitarianism. And that says that the individual's rights have to be balanced with the rights of the community. Now, there are no rights of the community. That is not anything that's written into your law. There are individual rights. But what happens with these groups like the International Council on Local Environmental Initiatives and Common Purpose and the International Institute of Sustainable Development and other large international groups like this, is that what they do is they influence public policy by inserting people who have basically been propagandized by them into the public process, into the governmental process. And they are directing governmental process in that way. So literally, it doesn't matter at that point who you're voting for, because you have lost your ability to influence government. And this is how the spiral happens, because people come out of government into these nonprofits, and then from there to the foundations or corporations, and it's a circle. And the money moves in that way as well.
So would you call that, they're basically what they're doing is lobbying, really?
Oh, it's beyond lobbying now. I mean, they've gone, see, the thing is, lobbying, you'll also see the word efficiency a lot. That's part of it too. Resilience, efficiency, social, economic, and environmental, all of these words together. So when you see the idea that you don't really need lobbyists anymore when you own the politicians, why have the middleman, right?
Yeah.
You don't really need the middleman when you actually are the politician, and that's the plan.
Well, it's the NLP they're using in common purpose, really. That's how they're doing it.
Yeah.
And Agenda 21 will be the same. And these people, I was just thinking there, the people who are putting this out, are they ignorant to what's going on? Do they not see that this will affect them as well?
This is always, isn't this the question? I mean, you get up in the middle of the night, you look in the mirror and you go, how could they be doing this?
Yeah.
Don't they live on the same planet? And don't they know they're going to be stood up against a wall and shot just the same as everybody else? I don't know. Who knows what the mentality of these people really is? They are certainly getting a lot of money. They're getting political power, influence, and of course, people who are on the inside never think that they're going to be the victim of what it is that they're creating, because they're creating an elitist force. And that's that's the design for this thing, is to completely striate. This is the lie, one of the many lies of Agenda 21 Sustainable Development, is that it's about it's about getting rid of poverty and creating sort of prosperity across the board. Everyone has enough, and nobody's too poor, etc. That's a lie. What this really is going to do, and is doing now, and you see it, you're experiencing it, is to destroy the middle class, to grow the poor class to a huge extent, so that the poor literally will do anything for food and water and a place to live, and then have a tremendous elitist, not huge, but an elitist class that is untouchable and cannot be entered. Basically, it's about neo-feudalism, bringing back that time where you could not move beyond your class.
Well, that's communism, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
That's socialism.
But it's beyond that,
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of beyond that, because it's the story of communism is that no one's going to have more than anyone else.
Yeah.
The reality, of course, is that you have an elitist class. And you have people who are, standing in line, don't even know what they're standing in line for, but whatever the heck it is they're going to get at the end there, they're going to be able to trade it for something else. Yeah.
Yeah, because I would have said maybe these people think they're bringing in socialism, but what they're actually bringing in is communism, bordering on probably fascism.
Oh, it's definitely fascism. This is fascism. And it's totalitarian. It's a totalitarian fascist state being developed, and it's worldwide. Like I say, there's no Switzerland in this fight. People come up to me all the time after my speeches, and they say, "Hey, Rosa, so where can I go? Where's the safe place?"
Yeah.
And I go, "Forget it, man. There is nowhere. You can't go anywhere. You must stay and fight it where you are. This is what we do. We fight it locally."
Yeah.
Because it's imposed locally.
Yeah, it does
and
not.
That's where you fight it. It's like your dad, Steve, was saying, hey, who's at the top? That obviously we want to know, and it's interesting. But the real deal is who's at the bottom. Who's your person interfacing with you who's nailing you with this? And that's what you want to identify. And you want to target those people and take them, remove them from office. And there are many, many things we can do. I have 20 pages in my book on what can be done. And it's all very doable stuff. but we have to do it
now,
together.
Now, we are going to be talking about solutions shortly, later on, but I was speaking to, we're going to have a guest on shortly, but I have spoken to John Irwin a few times. John Irwin is a super soldier. He's in his 70s now, but he was actually recruited inside the British military to kind of, I won't say destroy, but to take down these people who are trying to implement this fascist system. And John said, it's not the people at the top you should be concerned about, it's the people around you, because they're the people who are going to be your enemies. Because if you are suffering from ODD, it's going to be your neighbours and your friends or family who'll commit you.
Yeah. And that's right. And, I have this, that's part of my book is talking about that, and actually talking about our personal situation here and what happened to us as individuals in a town where we were targeted. This is not unusual, and it is, part of the plan is about mandatory volunteering. So just think about that for a second. Mandatory volunteering.
Right. That's an oxymoron, isn't it? That's a...
Yes, it's an oxymoron.
Yeah.
That's right. It's slavery. But that's being expected in, local so-called communities, where you're the Give Back program, you're supposed to give back. How much do you care about your so-called community?
Yeah.
Well, what that's really about is about identifying who is willing to work for nothing and support these local nonprofits and go along to get along, and who isn't. And you're going to find this more and more locally. And the thing is that if you like to volunteer and you're participating in volunteering, that's very cool. I don't say it isn't. But you need to look at who you're volunteering for. Because nonprofit groups are partners in Agenda 21. And for instance, here in the United States, the American Lung Association has an advocacy wing that is advocating for smart growth. And smart growth is the preferred design style for Agenda 21 because it literally packs you into a city center and collects populations in a very dense area. So you need to look at who you're volunteering for and then what the consequences are if you're not volunteering. What perks are people getting that you're not getting because you won't volunteer?
That's terrible, isn't it? That is real. It's incredible that they're thinking that they're setting the system up like that. What about the likes of NGOs?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, NGO is a non-governmental organization, and they're called NGOs by the United Nations. The United Nations, first of all, Agenda 21 is an actual document. It's 300 pages long, and it's about 40 chapters. You can get all this stuff on our website, by the way, which is postsustainabilityinstitute.org or Democrats Against UN Agenda21.com, and we have everything on there. So if you look at the actual document of Agenda 21, what it says is that it's about capacity building, which means basically that they want to siphon money off to non-governmental organizations that will then be literally making laws for the government and not answerable to you. So when you have people volunteering for these groups who become part of what they think they're becoming part of, sort of some nice little agency that's doing things for the people. But really what they're doing is growing the power of these groups that literally are representing you without your knowledge or approval. And this is the design of Agenda 21 is about, as I said, regional governance is the interim step to total globalization. And that is the goal, because then you literally have no influence as an individual voter, like your referendum issue. You will not be able to referend because a lot of these things won't even be treaties. They'll just be made, behind closed doors, and that's the law.
Well, I'm pretty sure we have that now with our local councils.
Mm-hmm. You do.
Yeah,
your local council is really a kind of a corporation now. You literally, you can go in there and practically strip naked and scream your head off. Of course, you're going to be an ODD. but and not draw any attention from your local council, and not influence them. That one reason for that is because they are literally directed by staff to ignore what it is that you're saying when you go down there, and they're being told by staff that their job is to agree with each other. This is government by consensus, and of course they're using a mind control technique that was developed in the 1950s by the Rand Corporation. It's called the Delphi technique.
That's right, Jack.
And they use that on the population in order to make you get along with these plans that they say you're developing, but in fact were already planned in advance. And this is happening, of course, all over the world. And Dublin had the Vision 2030 plan, and that that's yet one of the many regional plans across the world that are all the same plan. It's all the same plan.
That's incredible. And the fact that normally we see these things coming down the line. Excuse me. And we could probably start having a plan and start doing something about it. But for me to actually go on the local county council website, County Meath, it's meath.ie is the website, and you type in Agenda 21, it's actually there. So it's beginning to come in, and obviously the concern would be that if you were to go around and start telling people about Agenda 21, they'll just look at you as if you had, square head. And again, the ODD kicks in, and this is what John is saying about, it's not, the people that we have to wake up, not so much your neighbours, but the people who have to wake up are the people like the police and the army, and people who are in positions that can make change, like people in the councils. They're the people who we need to focus on and wake them up and let them know what's going on, which is very difficult to do because some people are just so controlled and they're so kind of jobsworth, to put it another way, is, they're just so focused, and they feel that what they're doing is correct because they've been programmed either using the Delphi technique or NLP, common purpose, and you just can't get through to them.
I know. Yeah, we're at a point now where, we're going under. This is not the moment to sit this out and think that somebody else is going to take this for you and handle it. And this is, of course, it's a global problem that, it's been a stealth thing. That's why, talking about being called crazy and stuff, did they name it Agenda 21 so that it would sound so crazy that no one would, think that you were serious? Because it sounds like Area 51 or Catch 22.
Yeah.
But, it's called the Agenda for the 21st Century. And the fact that it is the action plan. This is not, the thing is, if you go on our website, postsustainabilityinstitute.org, go on there and look at, we have a page that says what countries signed on to Agenda 21 or something like that. And then go to Ireland, which is on there, and click on the word Ireland, and it'll take you to the United Nations site, which has the UN Ireland Local Agenda 21 plan back in 1992, 93, 94, 95. And take a look at it, Ireland, and get a look at that, because this is not, the thing is, if you were sitting there talking about Kyoto, would they tell you had a tinfoil hat on? This is the real deal. It's not that, no one's making it up. And the thing is, yes, what you'll hear is that it's a non-binding plan. But if it's implemented by your country and they make laws that go along with it, then it's binding on you.
Of course it is.
So,
and the fact that we have, I suppose it's not constitutional, so they don't need to get a referendum and ask the people whether you want to do it. Now, what we're trying to do over here, there is a new party started up over here, because at the moment the parties that are in, the government parties that we have over here, we call them kind of Tweedledum and Tweedledee. It doesn't matter who you get in, as you know, they still go and follow the same hymn sheet, the same agenda. So this new party, which is called DDI, is about giving people back direct democracy, which they have in Switzerland. And that means that letting people have the power instead of the government, and also having recall. So if the politicians don't do what they're supposed to do with their mandate, they can be removed. Now, obviously, this new party is really doing well at the moment. There's a lot of support for this party. But we're still trying to wake people up to get them to realise that the institutionalised parties that we have there at the moment, the mainstream parties, I mean, it doesn't matter who gets in. You know, and in America it's probably the same with the parties. You have the Democrats and you have the, what's the other party you have? The Democrats and? Republicans. Yeah. Saying, I mean, you know, doesn't matter who gets in. They're all controlled and, you know, that's just the way it is. Well, I have a question here, Steve. You have a question for Rosa, I believe?
Yeah, another question. Is there any connection, says Howie, between the people behind Agenda 21 and those behind the Nazi regime in the 1930s to 40s?
Oh, thank you so much for that question. I love it because I love to talk about this, and it's so very interesting, and it's like shooting fish in a barrel.
Excellent.
Because, yes, it's not like in 1945 they turned off the light switch and everything went away. In fact, a lot of, first of all, yes, this is a continuation of the Nazi plan. And the other thing is, you know, who is doing this? And if you want to talk about Bilderberg, et cetera, whatever, but let's talk about the corporate interests that are pushing this plan. So, let's talk about Siemens Corporation, GE, and IBM. One thing they all have in common is they were either, Siemens Corporation is a German corporation. It was about to go bankrupt during right before Hitler took power, until he generously granted them slave labor from the concentration camps. And Siemens is a huge player in Agenda 21. As I said, they own water, tremendous water sources. They also do light rail, heavy rail, and that is the number one building block for mega regions and for Agenda 21. And they were also involved in Agenda 21 development with the International Council of Local Environmental Initiatives. So there's Siemens. GE and IBM were Nazi collaborators during World War II. IBM had a wholly owned subsidiary, German subsidiary in Germany that allowed Hitler to be able to track everyone in the camps and identify through census initially who was in Germany and how they were going to move them. That's IBM. They developed their computer systems for Hitler. IBM is big in Agenda 21, sustainable development. They are developing biometrics, tracking. They identify individuals by their physical attributes, and also through the Internet and ownership of documentation and information intelligence. GE, another big player in Agenda 21 and collaborator. Aside from them, there are others, and what you're seeing now is the dream of the Nazis, something that could not be done before, which is total information. And with domestic surveillance, drones, in the United States, the National Defense Authorization Act, the ability to track everything you do. In Utah, in the United States, they are building a 1.5 million square foot facility on a military base to hold all of our communications, including those that are encrypted, so that if at some point in the future they're able to unencrypt that information, they still have it. And they had to move out of, this is the United States government, had to move their facility from Baltimore, Maryland, because it was exhausting all of the energy sources for that huge city. So this is, okay, so yes, this is definitely a continuation of a Nazi plan, also in terms of philosophy as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I remember reading about IBM and these companies. IBM had the punch card computer system for all the prisoners and everything else, and that's how they did it. Right, we have about a half an hour or so left. So let's look at solutions, Rosa. Let's look what we can do on a practical level. All of us, we can all get involved in doing. So tell us give us some positive stuff that we can start looking at doing.
Yeah, good. Well, I hope that, if you're listening to this, you have recognized that this is not a conspiracy theory. It's a conspiracy fact. There's no question that Agenda 21 Sustainable Development is a stealth plan, and it's been happening for at least 20 years, and it's in your educational system, your food, your law enforcement, every aspect of your life is impacted by Agenda 21. So if you know this now, it means that you are the resistance, and you need to take some responsibility. So like all of us who are out here working on it, fighting it, and raising awareness. That's the very first thing you want to do, is educate yourself and others. It's kind of like when you're on a plane and they tell you that little oxygen mask is going to drop on you, and you put it on yourself before you put it on your kid or whatever. You need to educate yourself first.
Yeah.
And so that's very important. So the very first thing you want to do, you want to get the information. You want to get the local information. So you start to be able to establish patterns where you recognize when you're reading your newspaper what it looks like, because it doesn't come called Agenda 21. It doesn't have flashing lights. So you're going to have to recognize it. So for instance, like you just did your news thing before I came on, and I was like, okay, that's Agenda 21, that's Agenda 21. So you want to be able to do that yourself, and the way you do it is educate yourself. So you recognize it when they're not repairing your rural roads or your suburban roads, or even, a lot of these towns you live in are collector towns. You're only going to be there for a short time, and then you'll be moved into Dublin. And you may be thinking to yourself, this woman's crazy. I'm never going to go live in Dublin. But the truth is, or New York City, or Los Angeles. But the truth is, the plan is designed to move you out of those areas, and it will do so by not managing your infrastructure out there, and by charging you more for living out there. So one thing you want to do, like you said, you want to be able to target individuals for recall. If they're cooperating or collaborating with this plan, you want to expose them. This is what you do. You anti-Delphi meetings, and we have in my book, Behind the Green Mask, I tell you how to anti-Delphi a meeting. When you get called into those visioning meetings in your neighborhood to tell them how you want to see your town change, and they give you the crayons, and you get to color on the little maps and stuff. I tell you how you can take those meetings down. You want to identify who it is that you're volunteering for, and you want to pull your support and refuse to collaborate, refuse to give funds to any organization that is participating in Agenda 21. You want to hardwire your stuff. You don't need to be wireless. It's a convenience. You want to stop using Facebook, stop using social media that I know it's inconvenient, it's going to be a hassle, but you have given up your privacy rights. If you have children in school, you want to, take away those electronic media. You want to return to a situation where it's a lot harder to identify you and to identify what you're doing, what you're talking about, what you're thinking about. If you can do it without electronics, then do it, because you're being tracked. Another thing you want to do is you want to start opening up the so-called conversation locally. So if you're in a group, remember you're an individual in a group. You're not a group, you're an individual. So, but one thing you want to do is you want to go to kids. You want to bring young people into the conversation here, and you want to sponsor some sort of a little film festival where you say, what does Agenda 21 look like here in Meath, or what does it look like in whatever town you live in? And you sponsor a film festival where you give awards, 10-minute, best 10-minute film, runner-up, etc. And then you show them on a weekday during the day or whatever. You rent one of your movie theaters during the day or whatever. Give an awards banquet. You want to raise awareness and involve people. We have flyers on our website for you to print out. You can print out 100 flyers for about $5. And get those flyers out. You want to walk them around, put them on doorsteps. Don't hand them to people because they don't want to take them. You put them on doorsteps and get the information out to people. And if you don't like our flyers, you make your own. Buy my book, Behind the Green Mask. It's a good book, and it applies. It's selling all over the world, and that's a good thing. You want to talk to your elected officials. You want to show up at those meetings, and you want to notify them that you know what's going on, and that you're holding them accountable, and that if they, you line up in a big line, get as many people to go down with you as you can, keep them there all night, and do it repeatedly, and join together, go around, all the towns in Meath, move around with your friends, grow your group, and release this information. You want to make it a press issue. You want to bring the press into it. They will lie. They will tell lies about you, and they'll tell lies about the plan, everything that you're doing. But you still want to, see if you can get some information out to the public. That's what you're doing right now. We are playing catch up. We're out there trying to get people to see what is going on and to stop it, to refuse to collaborate.
I was just thinking in my head while you were talking there, Steve, educating people about Agenda 21 in our locations. What do you think about that?
I think it will be, personally speaking to, a lot of the people who would live in the villages that we live in, it would probably be more successful trying to get blood out of a stone than to try and open these people up. And I mean, at the end of the day, Alan and I have had this discussion many, many times about different ways and different techniques of trying to just plant a seed in someone's mind and see, can we water that seed and see how open they are, or just relay information to them. And time again, we've come up against people, and we can't blame them. We have to blame the system that they've become slaves to, because I know with the NLP and the Delphi program, of which Howie is looking, wondering if you have a link to this Delphi program. But I mean, and the likes of TV, the social media, people, we can't blame them for being, so dependent on the system, because that's the way the system has them. That's the way it's engineered. I mean, I suppose we're the lucky ones in some respects that we've been able to detach ourselves from that system. But it's all about education. I fully believe that, and I also believe that the younger generation are the ones who we need to educate. I think because it's not a case of they are the future. I know that we are the change that we are waiting to see, but we have to educate them, and because there's no point in trying to educate the parents, because you'll open so many parents' minds, but then the parents will do, or the chances are they won't do anything, because they're too dependent on the system as it is, and they're going through the austerity, and they're just doing what they can to keep food on the table and keep the wolf away from the door, as the saying goes. But I think if we can just kind of change the children, I think that's who we need to concentrate on, and I think you're correct there, Rosa. If we can involve them and just kind of get some initiative going with the children, then by that the ripple effect will grow, and other children will get involved, and then maybe when there's enough children involved, adults will start to wonder what this is, and then you'll have the children teaching the adults. I mean, at the moment over here, there's an advertisement on the television, and I absolutely hate the ad, because it's a classroom full of adults, and there's a child teaching the class, and it depends on what way you look at the ad. Some people find it funny, but he's talking about car insurance, this young lad. I think it's car insurance, I'm not 100% sure, and he's asking questions, and some of the adults, you can see that they're just dumb, they haven't got a clue, and the child gives the answer, and then at the end of the ad he says, see, it's so simple, even an adult could do it. But I think that's the way forward. I mean, we have to really just kind of pump it into the kids, and that's what Aisling Fitzgibbon, she's the girl against fluoride, that's her path in life at this moment in time. But she's targeting schools, because obviously when you get enough young people involved, they're more receptive to information than than adults, I suppose.
Do you think we should use some NLP ourselves? And first of all, get them to know what Agenda 20... They'd be asking, what's Agenda 21? Like stickers with Agenda 21, Agenda 21, and get them thinking. Yeah. Because, just because they've never probably ever heard of it. And, over here in Ireland, Lindsay Williams was on the show and he said, people are struggling and people who struggle won't rebel. Yeah. And there's also this I'm okay Jack attitude to a certain extent from people, And what we need to do is kind of, first of all, get them to hear the word Agenda 21 or see it. And then get them to ask, well, what does that mean? I've seen it all over the place. What does Agenda 21 mean? And then slowly kind of bring them around to it. What do you think?
Well, one thing I could, have some things to say about what both of you have said. First of all, it's Agenda 21 Sustainable Development. Now, people have seen that term, Sustainable Development, and I think it's important to, to call it as it is. The plan itself creates a collapsed economy. So this is part of, that's why you're dealing with this, because the plans are hugely expensive. They're big infrastructure projects often. And they, if you want to be like the greenest capital in the world or the walkable neighborhood or, you're going to see that costs a lot of money. And that's one reason why you're in debt. Kids are great, except that they are in school and they're being propagandized constantly. So you do need to find wedge issues like fluoride, like smart meters, like surveillance, domestic surveillance, that are all Agenda 21, and then use that as an opening to be able to expand people, because once they recognize that these things are all linked together, that's one advantage to talking about Agenda 21 sustainable development, because you can link everything together and you don't have people fragmented going, oh, well, I'm already working on the smart meter issue, so I don't have time for anything else. This is all part of the same thing. So what you can do is assist people in recognizing that, and that is very important.
Exactly. Well, one of the radio stations that we stream on, and the chaps are on the chaps facility here, is TNS Radio. And I remember having a talk with Vin, who's one of the hosts on TNS, and he runs TNS. And we said we should have our own agenda, but we'll call it Agenda 22, which is the opposite to Agenda 21, obviously. And then start promoting Agenda 22, which is just to completely reverse what Agenda 21 is doing.
Yeah, why not? Whatever it is that that gets you into it, because really what this is it's a failed state on a global model, and it's a hostile takeover of our governments and of everything that all our lives. And so whatever it is, if you can use humor, I think that's really great. I try to do that as much as possible, and do anything that you can to pique people's interest, because people are exhausted. They're worn out. They're having difficulty functioning, difficulty paying their bills, and as you said, it's difficult for people to fight when they're exhausted. So you want to assist them in recognizing what it is that has changed for them and why. And part of it, obviously, is you're part of the EU, which the EU is the interim step to global government. And we're seeing that in the United States with the imposition of mega regions. We're moving towards that incrementally, and TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. So all of these trade agreements, all of these things started with trade agreements, and this is how you lose your sovereignty. So I think, people, keep it local, because that's where people know. They know the people who are doing it to them. They know the school board. They know the local council or whatever. And, you start bringing this in front of them, and when they reject you or shame you or embarrass you or mock you, you target them for removal.
Well, this is one of the things, myself and Steve, you probably heard, we're organising a seminar in June. We're going to be talking about the dangers of wireless technology. Now, originally, how that came about was that I wanted to have that talk in a local school, and I approached the local school and I asked them, could we actually use one of the classrooms to educate the parents regarding wireless technology, and the authorities just shut it down straight away and said no. So we are now going to have this talk in a different location, but it's just, when I go back down to the school and we have another meeting, I will be saying, the fact that they shut me down straight away. These authorities obviously don't have any concern regarding the health of the pupils. You would think they would turn around and say, well, what's this all about and why are you doing it and all this? There was none of that. It was just basically shut them down and don't let them do it. We can't do that because over here, obviously, wireless technology is global, but our government has just signed an 850 million contract with the network providers to provide 4G network over here. And obviously, they're not going to bite the hand that feeds them. So they're not going to turn around. There's going to be deniability, what way you look at it. And as you say, this is all part and parcel of the Agenda 21. The smart meters, the water meters, the mobile phones, the wireless, the whole lot is interlinked. And so, although we might be attacking one area, we do try and, like yourself, we get somebody like yourself on who's well versed on this subject matter, and to educate people who are listening to the show, and obviously the podcast will go out as well. Steve,
we're kind of well, I just thought of this. It may or may not resonate. I don't know. I think we're like the game Jenga. Well, we're like the Jenga of the truth seekers, or whatever you want to call us, one brick at a time. And eventually, I suppose, the system will fall.
Well, we have, there's a lot of willful ignorance, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but there are people who are just, we find that people over here in Ireland, and probably like the rest of the countries around Europe, they're surviving, they're not living. People are walking around, and they're just in a daze, or their heads down, and, it's affecting everybody. And I'm sure it's the same in the States.
Yeah, it is, and this is what a collapsed economy furthers Agenda 21 sustainable development, because it's what it does is it makes it's supposed to create prosperity, but what it does is obviously it does the opposite. That's always a signature of Agenda 21 sustainable development. It does the opposite of what it says it's going to do. So it literally preys on your ability to live independently and to have a successful life, because obviously you're using too much. You're unsustainable if you have a private vehicle or a private residence, or you're using appliances or air conditioning. That's all considered to be unsustainable. So what do? They have to, right there on your UN.org Ireland page, it says that you have to change your consumption patterns. Well, what the hell does that mean? It means that you're going to be living with a lot less. And this is what's happening. So we need to, this is it now. You've got to raise awareness. And, people don't want to hear it. So that's why you put a flyer on their porch. Because you go away and you have just flyered 100 apartments or houses, and 200 people see it. And let them chew it over the, dining room table. And you're gone, It's not like you stand there and talk to 10 people. You're giving it to hundreds of people at a time. And this is this is what we need to do across the world. This is a worldwide, nonpartisan, grassroots movement for freedom. And it doesn't matter what your, political affiliation is. You are part of the resistance.
Definitely. And I think that's another T-shirt in the making there. I'm part of the resistance. I just have resistance. But, that's very good. I mean, hopefully people will hear this and will look further into Agenda 21 and just research it. And it's for our own benefit that we do something about this, because it's going to, if we don't do anything and just sit back, it's going to happen. So we have to go and do something, and we have to educate people. Now, I will say globally, and I don't know whether you feel this, Rosa, from a positive point of view, there is a massive awakening of people, maybe because they have to. I mean, we had Bob Chapman, who's passed away there not so long ago. But Bob said to us, he said, people need to be suffering to wake up. And maybe that's what's needed. When people are suffering, and I mean really suffering, they're struggling, that's when people start asking questions and start waking up to it.
Well, that's why we're kind of in a dangerous position too, because we are, yes, I would say I've been, out lecturing about this for almost 3 years now, around the United States, and now I'm starting to travel around the world, and I am seeing a tremendous upsurge in awareness all around the world. People are becoming aware and are speaking out about it, but this is also a very pivotal moment because they haven't quite locked it all down. We are very far progressed, and you are in Ireland. Don't think it's not, very far. That's what's happening there. So, but people still have a voice, and still, you're not worried that you're going to lose your job and your food rations if you talk about this. So the thing now to do is to seize this moment, take this moment and run with it, because this is our chance right now. We need to educate each other and then speak out and then refuse to cooperate, and do that in every possible way you can. Your health records are being digitized. There isn't anything about you that is not going to be accessible, and this is the time to stop now.
Well, you're talking about George Orwell. That's what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm, that's right. It's a combination of George Orwell and Aldous Huxley with Brave New World. And it's kind of interesting because, Brave New World, Aldous Huxley, he got, George Orwell sent him his book, 1984, and Huxley read it, and he said, this is a cool book. I think it's really fabulous. He said, but I think it's going to be a lot more like my book, where people are basically kind of drugged into thinking that things are okay, and they're just kind of, directed to be sort of automatons. He said, because it's easier to manage a population like that. And I think that is what we're going to see, and we are seeing more and more. You ask, why are people going along with it? They're going along with it because there's something in it for them. And these are people who, whether they're morally challenged or what, it's very difficult to go against your self-interest. And this is an interim transitional period where some people will be benefited by this plan, and they don't have the moral fortitude to stand up and refuse to collaborate.
Well, that's what we have here with our politicians. They've no backbone, and basically they're kowtowing to the Troika, which is over in Europe, and the Troika are dictating what we do over here in Ireland. We kind of have lost their sovereignty, and we are bailing out the bondholders when we don't need to. That's not our debt. That's not a sovereign debt. That's a bank debt.
Yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly what happened, and that's, that is, look at Greece, this is what happens, and everyone ends up paying, because it's the debt that's shared throughout the EU.
Yeah, definitely, and after what happened in Greece, or Cyprus with the 100,000 taken from savings, that was apparently a template to actually go around Europe and do the same thing.
Yeah, that's right. So, the question is, if you're, here, the three of us are having a talk, but hopefully, lots and lots and lots of people are sitting and listening to this as well, and will hear the podcast. And my question for all of you is, what are you doing to stop this? You must do something. You cannot think that someone else is going to take care of this for you. So get up, stand up, take this on. Get up and look in the mirror and say, I am the hero of this plan. I will stop this plan. I am willing to take this on. And then get up and do something. And we've, got stuff for you to do. It's not that someone else is going to do it for you. I know things are lousy. You may be depressed. There's nothing more powerful than taking this on. It will channel your anger and you will feel more empowered. It's the best thing you can do, is to fight this plan.
Definitely, and the one thing that myself and Steve have said, and we said it before on the show, is that we just have a moral responsibility. We have a conscience, and we have a moral responsibility to not let this happen.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, that's right. And I think there's one thing I want to say about that is that there's something called, in the school system now, children are being taught that basically there is no right and wrong. Everyone has a point of view, and that at some point, it's sort of situational ethics is what it is. And so what that does is it confuses people to the point where they don't really know what right and wrong is. And, those of us who are older, are very clear. We know, when you're doing the wrong thing. And, even these people who are doing the wrong thing, they may have to do cognitive dissonance where they make it work for themselves, but they know they're doing wrong. What's happening with our children is that they will not know when they're doing wrong. And that's another thing, is that you can't expect children to take this on. Children are the most powerless of all people. And they're being told that they're responsible for killing the planet. So they're being given a tremendous amount of responsibility and pressure. And it's up to us to refuse to collaborate and to take this on ourselves. As powerless as we may feel, we are a huge portion of the population, those of us who are resisting. And it doesn't take 100% of the people. 10% of us is many, many millions of people. And we can stop this if we work together and we stand up and say no.
Yeah, you said selective objectability, was it? Or what was?
It's situational ethics.
Situational ethics. Well,
it's like
I was going to say this. I was just going to say isn't that what a lawyer or solicitor would use, the kind of thinking when they're actually going to work for like a drug dealer or somebody who's murdered somebody?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Well, I mean, I come from a family of lawyers, and that's why I'm not a lawyer myself, is because I say to my dad, "Daddy, isn't he guilty?" And my dad would go, "It doesn't matter. He's entitled to a defense." And I say, "Well, not by me."
Very good, very good. Can you just give us the web address where your flyer was on? Somebody's just asked for the web address again so they can download the flyer.
Yes, absolutely. These flyers are available on 2 different websites. The first website is postsustainabilityinstitute.org, postsustainabilityinstitute.org, and the other website is Democrats Against UN Agenda 21.com. And you can just put my name in to your search browser. My last name is spelled Koire. Koire. My first name is Rosa. And it'll take you directly to those websites.
Brilliant stuff. Well, we're going to do a quick roundup in a minute with all your bits and pieces, and obviously your book as well, which sounds very interesting. So to sum up, really, at the end of the day, we have to get up off our bum, really, and get out there. Myself and Steve, as we said, we're doing a seminar in June, the 17th of June, regarding wireless technology, and we felt that would be probably the starter to actually go on and do other subjects. We're going to kind of play it by ear, obviously, but hopefully, we'll get the people interested to come down and have a listen. Walter is a great speaker in what he's talking about, and I'm sure there's people over here that will actually be able to talk about Agenda 21 as well. But I think definitely we have to start and work together as much as you can. Find people in your local area, because I know with myself and Steve, because we live out in the country, there's very few people we've come across that actually have an open mind to what's going on. And even 1 or 2 people I know who are like that won't really get involved. They'll be open to it, but they'll kind of say, no, you're okay. I know about it, but I don't really want to get involved. Not realizing that, well, if they don't get involved, they can't complain what comes down the line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. The sad truth is you are involved. No matter what, you're either involved in doing nothing or you're involved in doing something, but you're involved.
Yeah, and they can't complain. You get people complaining. Say we have a thing over here which is the property tax at the moment over in Ireland, and the government are trying to bring in this property charge, and people don't have any money. We don't have the money. There's just no money left in people's pockets, and they want to charge people money, property charge, and they're chasing after people, and they're threatening us, and they're saying they're going to go and use the inland revenue to go into our bank accounts and take the money, and it's unbelievable the amount of threats they're trying to come out with, and it's bully boy tactics again from the government.
And that's how they get you off your land, because if you don't pay that tax, you're going to lose your property.
Well, hopefully you won't. I mean, it's bad enough that people are struggling and not paying their mortgages at the moment. That's what they're trying to do. They've hired special judges who specialise in eviction, and they're paying them some colossal amount of money, and they want to up the ante and give banks more power so they can start more evictions.
Yeah. Yeah, this is Agenda 21, Sustainable Development, getting you off of your land, making you dependent on government. This is it.
That's really, that's the plan of attack. Okay, well, listen, Rosa, we've come to that time. It's been a brilliant interview. Really, really enjoyed it. Loads of information. We do, I believe, have a question. Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, just we've had a piece of information there, Rosa, from Karen Quinn Tostado, and very good evening, Karen. I'm glad you're enjoying the show. Karen is behind I think Karen is probably the brains behind the United We Strike, United We Win radio marathons that are held on the second Saturday of every month. But Karen says that United We Strike is encouraging action in terms of some types of resistance on July 4, 5, 6 and 7th. And she also said, Rosa, that you were a guest on the UWS Marathon back in January. You were on with Michael Shaw. And she was also wondering, and so are a few other people on the chat, could you briefly, I have to say briefly because it's coming up to the top of the hour, just kind of talk about the Delphi technique. There's a lot of interest, a lot of questions come up in relation to that.
Boy, would I love to really go into that. And like I say, I'm not like trying to make you buy my book, but it's in there, and you can get it on Kindle and on Nook too. But what Delphi is, it is a mind control technique. It's being used in government meetings right now. When you get invited to a government meeting to come and give your opinion on that cool new plan, that new regional plan for your area, that is designed to bring groups of people to a predetermined outcome while giving them the impression that it was all their idea. So that plan is all designed and written before you walk in the room, but you're being propagandized and you're being marginalized. It's about neutralizing opposition. So there are ways to counter that, and we do teach you how to do that. But it's about manipulation of populations and also propagandizing people to accept these plans.
That's like the Dale Carnegie management technique.
Right. How to win friends and influence.
Hey, there you go. I read the book. He uses the same thing. He talks about the same thing.
But you don't expect your government to be against without your knowledge, manipulating you, and also then attacking you and marginalizing you if you actually don't like the plan. It's about destroying dissent, and it's about creating good Germans. And no insult to anyone who has German ancestry or is German. What that means is that people who go along to get along and don't question and are willing to give up their rights in order to maybe get a little something.
Well, we call that the kind of sheeple mentality, really.
Yeah, well, that's a nice, neutral, challenged way to put it.
Yeah, because, there's so many people we call sheep over here who, unbeknownst to them, but they are following the herd. And you try and wake them up. And one of the things that we did when we did a talk recently, well, just last year, wasn't it? We talked about the whole psychology of opening up and waking up to what's going on and how the mind works, which went down very well. But Rosa, again, thank you very much for coming on. Really, really enjoyed the chat. And, definitely in a few months' time we'll have to get you back on and get an update if you're up for that. And
sure.
Just catch up and, again, thanks for educating people, because I know you're further down the line than we are. Although we have it here, but you've really seen what's going on with Agenda 21, and we appreciate all the information that you've given us. So I'm going to pass you over to Steve, and Steve will just round up with details, contact details and all that, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, thank you.
Okay, well, there's not really a lot I can do. Rosa, I can ask you for your website again, and I know you have the book, and as you mentioned the book, I have put it up there several times, and I've also put up links to the website on the chat facility, so people are getting educated and they are getting the links. But do you want to have? Well, we just throw the mic over to you, let you have the last word. You can promote the book and the website again, and if you have maybe a YouTube channel where you have, I know you have some. You do have some material up on YouTube. I've seen some links, but if you want to maybe just give people other ways and means of communicating with you, or maybe finding out more about Agenda 21 and your work.
Okay, great. Well, I really thank you for having me on, and I really appreciate your listeners recognizing what a serious issue this is and being willing to be the resistance. And of course, as I said, you can, if you want to see or listen to me talking about this in, sort of lecture form, just go to YouTube and put my name in there, Rosa, R-O-S-A, and then my last name is K-O-I-R-E. And our websites are Democrats Against UN Agenda21.com and postsustainabilityinstitute.org. And the book is Behind the Green Mask, UN Agenda 21. And it's on Amazon, it's on Kindle and Nook, and you can also get it on our websites. International buyers can buy it through our websites because we can ship internationally.
Just a quick question, Rosa. Is your book available on audiobook?
No, and my brother, I'm trying to get the time to do that. I travel all over all the time. My brother had a stroke, and he really, really wants me to do it on. And of course, I get asked all the time, but my brother, that's really important. So I am planning this summer to make it an audiobook.
But that's good news, and I'll tell you why, because anyone who listens to this show regularly knows that Alan is a reader. Alan always has a book or two in his hand. He loves reading. I don't get the same enjoyment, but I do get. I use I have an hour's travel to and from work 5 days a week, and I use that as my learning time, if you like. I don't listen to domestic radio. I always have a CD of some description on, listening to educate myself. So I would love to listen to your book.
Okay, Steve. Well, my brother's name is Steve, too, so I'm going to do it for the two Steves, for sure.
Thanks very much, Rosa.
Brilliant stuff, Rosa. All right, just stay with us there, Rosa, for a minute, and we'll just go off to a musical break, and we'll be back after this. Okay, we're back. Sorry, that's just a quick mad world, because it's getting to that time. We've 8 minutes left.
Not even a jingle.
Not even a jingle.
Not even a jingle. What do you like?
Well, we're in Studio B. What can I say? Okay, so Vin, we don't know who's on with Vin tonight, do we?
I've communicated with Vin, and he's obviously busy doing something else. So no, I don't know who's on with Vin later on. But anyone who's a regular knows Vin's shows are always entertaining and informative.
Okay, well next week our show we're going to have Tony Z on again, but he's going to be on with Tammy Pepperman. The Tammy Pepperman is really against the OPPT, and she has a lot of reasons why she is. So we're going to be talking about the OPPT because we have seen a lot about this, and loads of information about people being positive and sending off the letters and everything else. But I'm not hearing anything back saying that it's worked. So let's talk to Tommy next week and Tony, and let's find out what's going on there. Again, just a quick reminder for the people who are tuned in just a little bit late there, that we are holding a free seminar. OYM are holding a free seminar in the Headford Arms Hotel, Kells, County Meath, on Monday the 17th of June between 8 and 10. And we have limited seats, so you want to get there early if you want to make it. There's plenty of parking in Kells. And basically we're going to be talking about the dangers of wireless technology. And the chap who's going to be speaking is going to be Walter Graham. Walter is a really good guy, great speaker, great information, and he's going to come down and he's going to tell us all about wireless technology. As I say, limited seating, guys. It's a free seminar. Obviously, donations will be a help at the door. If you want to chuck in a euro or two, whatever, that all helps, as you know. But we want to start getting the information out there. We want to start doing this on a regular basis, getting speakers down, talking about certain subjects. And I think, based on the austerity measures that the country has gone through at the moment, and we all are, we'll try and make them as free as we can. Donations help to OYM as well, because the donations will help us fund this as well. So that's really it, really.
And anyone who turns up on the evening will get a free bumper sticker.
Oh, yeah, a free bumper sticker, yeah.
If that doesn't entice you, I don't know what will.
Yeah, Sven on TNS says, when is it? It's the 17th of June. 8 to 9. That's a Monday. It's a Monday night, 17th of June, 8 to 10.
If that interferes with your bingo, we do apologise.
Yeah, it's normally bingo on Monday night. I don't know.
Bingo night is Monday night.
So if you have any news for us, let us know. Send us in an email, and hopefully my internet will be up and running. In Studio 1, by tomorrow, if not on Tuesday, and we'll get any emails if you have any emails coming in. Just remember the ODD thing, out of curiosity, the oppositional defiant disorder. That's what they're calling us at the moment. People who are conspiracy theorists or conspirators. Well, not supposed, not really conspirators, but conspiracy.
We're not conspiring with anyone.
Conspiring to educate people. That's trying to wake people up, if you want to call it that. But yeah, ODD apparently is what we're suffering from. Lauren Hill, who's the musician in the Fugees, that's what they're trying to get her on. And as we said, no doubt there'll be a drug or something out to actually fix the ODD. But so that's really, there's no plans really for the weekend, or for the week I should say. Just head down, catching up on a few videos that I have to watch when the internet works, and get a few things done. What about you, Steve?
Pretty much more, same as yourself. I'll catch up with whatever I can catch up on. I'll be gonna, nose to the grindstone as I'm from 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Just want to say actually a big thanks to Karen. Karen from United We Strike is on, and she's posting away there like goodo, and she's always very, very welcome on this show, and she does Trojan work with United We Strike, United We Win radio marathons on the second Saturday of every month, and it's well worthwhile checking out. Some great speakers on there. We also have a comment in. Sorry, go.
I was just going to say the marathon is up there. The podcast. Go to unitedwestrike.com, and the podcasts are there from the show, so you can actually have a listen.
And there was just one up there from from Howie. Howie said, "Does anyone? I haven't seen this film yet. It's probably going to be on my list of films to watch, only because I quite enjoyed the original series, and I believe the characters are based on the original series. But it's the inclusion. Howie says, anyone notice the inclusion of planetoid Nibiru in the opening of the latest Star Trek movie? So." Is that, again, Hollywood putting it out there, playing it out for us? Well,
I think if anybody hears anything about Project Wormwood, go and Google Project Wormwood. That's basically, there's a lot of scientists going down to Australia looking at this solar system that's apparently coming in. And there's a few people actually concerned about it. So you have a Google on Project Wormwood and have a look at that and see what you think. Why are all these scientists and astronomers I'm going to put my teeth back in.
Men in the moon.
Men in the moon. And people that look at stars. Why are they going down to Australia to look at this? They're obviously concerned about it. So Project Wormwood is what you need to be looking at. Really. So have a Google and have a look. If you do come across any information on it that's of interest, by all means let us know. I mean, that'd be great. Because we're just want to build up some information to find out what's going on. As always, store your food. Try and get as much food as you can, store it, water the whole lot, because, we just don't know what's around the corner. And if austerity starts getting worse, then at least you have food that you can pull on and use, which is basically what I'm doing at the moment. You just recycle the food, turn it around, get the older dates and newer dates and swap them around and everything else.
Yeah, you want to see Alan's stash of vodka? It's second to none.
It's brilliant. I'll just drink myself to death if anything happens. Okay, well listen, we let you go. And stay safe. Have a good week. For myself, Alan James, good night. Take it easy.
And the same for myself. Very good show. Great information there. So I'm gonna hold Rosa to that now about the audiobook, because I reckon it will be a bestseller on audio. Okay, we'll talk to you all next week. Take care. From myself, Stephen George. Good night.
Open your mind.